Hi, this video is part 2 of creating your tournament, and in this video we're going to be specifically going over the bracket configuration section along with creating your weight classes and your divisions. So to start at the top here, we've got max participants per bracket. By default, the value here is going to correspond to the package that you purchased. So the standard package supports up to 8 participants, the premium up to 32, and deluxe up to 128. Some tournaments like to limit the number of participants per bracket. For example, if I set that value to 8 and then ended up having a bracket with 16, it'd create an A and a B bracket with 8 in one and 8 in the other. And oftentimes that gets used in conjunction with this pool by skill level option, which if I have that enabled, then in that case, if it split it into A and B, you'd have the less experienced wrestlers in one bracket and the more experienced wrestlers in the other bracket. Let's set this back to 128. Under bracket type, you can select either double elimination, round robin, or a combination of double elimination plus round robin. One thing to call out on double elimination, that is the only option that you can use if you want to use the high school team scoring versus the basic scoring. Round robin, the software supports up to 6-man round robins, and if you do a round robin only tournament, then you'd also want to adjust the max participants per bracket accordingly. So if you set that to 4, then you'd have up to 4-man round robins. Also with round robin bracketing, you have the option of doing a best 2 out of 3 rule. So if you have only 2 kids in a weight class and you enable this, then it will be a best 2 out of 3. The third option here is the combination of double elimination plus round robin. So with this, I may do something like 16 as a maximum per bracket, but then I also, for smaller brackets, could use round robin. So if I entered a max number for round robin is 5, then any bracket with 5 or less would be round robin, and then if it had above that, it would turn into a double elimination bracket. This option tends to be pretty popular with youth tournaments. Number of places by bracket size. So depending upon what I have entered here, I'm going to have different options, and so based on the size of the bracket, I can select how many places I want to have for that particular bracket. Excluded wrestlers with no weigh-in, if I enable that, then it'll basically prevent any wrestlers who don't have a weight entered on the weigh-in screen from being bracketed, and it essentially considers them as a no-show. True second can be enabled or disabled. Pool by skill level, we've already talked about. Separate wrestlers from the same team. If I enable that, it's going to attempt to keep wrestlers from the same team from wrestling or matching up in the first round. Display on brackets, have the option of displaying the state or the team name. Next, I'm getting down into the weight classes and division section. So first of all, in creating my weight classes, I can do that one of 3 ways, and I'll go over each one. First is fixed increment. This is just a quick way to create or generate your weight classes. So if I use an increment of, say, 5 pounds, then I can enter a minimum weight and a maximum weight, and it'll basically create that many weight classes between 35 and 200 in this case. If I switch to fixed classes, this is a bit more manual, but also offers me a few more features and gives me the most flexibility. So in this case, I can enter a specific weight class, and then if I want, I can even override and put a specific weight class name along with that. So let's say I enter some weight classes, and I can keep adding as many as I need. One of the most common uses for this would be for a heavyweight. So if I type in a heavyweight value here for the name, I could actually do something like that. So what would appear on the registrations and the brackets would say HWT, but for the purpose of weigh-ins, it would actually use that weight class. The variable option is one that tends to get used for smaller tournaments where really the goal is just to try to pool wrestlers together the best you can to give people matches. So in this case, you can specify a maximum weight differential, and then what it does is rather than having fixed classes, it'll just automatically create brackets based on whatever it has to work with. So if you say a value of 4, then it's going to take all the wrestlers that it can, starting from the lightest weight, and start to combine wrestlers up until they get up to 4 pounds apart. Once a wrestler exceeds that 4-pound difference, then it'll start with a new bracket and continue on. That can be either based off of absolute value or based off of a percentage. So in this case, if it was 4, it's going to group wrestlers and keep them within 4% of each other's weight. For now, I'll flip back over to fixed increment. Next, we go to divisions. So we can do this based on age or based on school grade. If it's based on age, then you'd enter what date that should be based off of. Based on school grade is going to group them together based on how you've selected it down here in the division. So for example, if this was a high school tournament, maybe just call the division high school, and the minimum grade 9th grade, maximum 12th, and then I enter my period lengths. So if this is 2 minutes 0 seconds and I have 3 periods, that'll be the configuration of my division. Now for a youth tournament, I'm going to flip it back to age. Here maybe I do something like 6 and under. This is going to be 4 to 6 years old, and 1 minute periods, 3 periods, and then I can continue to add as many divisions as I have. So if I've got a 7 and 8, and maybe a 9 and 10, oops. And as you see here, you do have the option to specify different period lengths. So if my 9 and 10, I could set that at 1:30, and it'll adjust the max match length based on that. Now you can also specify consolation time. So if this is your standard time for your championship round matches, if I select the consolation time and then configure that, I can set something different than that. So in some cases, particularly at the high school level, the consolation periods may be different. You may have a shorter first period, for example. So I could set that like that. And then on the digital bout sheets, it'll automatically adjust the timer based on that selection. The last step after we've created all of our divisions would be to then assign weight classes to each division. So here are my 6 and under. I'm going to hit this button, and then I'm presented with all the different weight classes that I created. Now I can either select them all and then in one click apply them to all divisions, which is okay to do. The only reason why you may want to handpick particular weight classes would be for registration purposes. So for example, if my division 1, or my, in this case 6 and under, if I only selected these weight classes and I assigned those to that division, then when kids came online to register for that particular tournament, they would only see those weight class options for them to choose from. One final thing to note related to the weight class and division section here is this warning message in red. And this relates to the fact that once you start adding participants to your tournament, whether that be them registering online or you adding them manually, as soon as you do that, then the weight class and division section here is locked down and can't be changed. So just be aware of that and make sure that before you have people start registering, make sure you've got your weight classes and divisions set up exactly how you want. As soon as you have everything finalized, simply click the submit button and your tournament will be set up and ready to go.